You said you were damn near crying.
Yeah. So I was doing shoulders yesterday. It was the last set, and it was the Smith machine, press like that. Oh my gosh, bro, you feel those. Man.
Smith
And I and then
Smith
I
machine's good.
and then I couldn't even lift my shoulders. It was great. It was
We
great. But
gotta
then
get you.
my shot was cooked after that. I wouldn't play basketball, and it was terrible because I
Is
couldn't even
basketball
move
the
my
key?
arms.
Is basketball the key to closing clients, or is it the Smith machine?
Yeah, bro. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold up, hold up, hold on. Boom. Where is it? 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 Hold on.
This is a crazy start to a podcast.
Oh,
Oh wow!
that's me. Light work.
Wow! Dunk on them to start off, eh?
I think I chose the wrong profession, bro. I could have went to the league if I tried. No, I couldn't have. I definitely
What
couldn't
if you
have.
do both? Hit the
I
league whilst scaling new MRR.
no, bro. I went in an AAU tournament. I went from college or high school basketball, which I wasn't even that good at. I went into AAU and played against like our higher end team played against some like NBA players that are in the NBA right
Hmm.
now. No, 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 no. Bro, they're 6'5". They're jumping over me. They're they're jumping higher than like their feet are at my eye level when they're jumping. I'm like, no, I'm good. I can't do
You,
this.
you know, one of the funniest things about working online is when you start working with other people, you have no clue like what they actually look like in person. Like you see their
Really?
face, but you have no. I mean, you tell me. Do you know how tall I am? Do you know how like
I
how
guess
much
I
I weigh?
don't.
Like roughly like what I look like at all?
I guess I don't.
It's
No, 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 no.
it's really funny because sometimes you'll meet people and they're like completely different to what you're expecting. There was
Really?
this one time that we had I did a sales call with this guy that was like living in the middle of nowhere on one of the islands in Hawaii. And he was running a really interesting uh uh model with his e-commerce brand. Um he had essentially structured the business as like a not for profit charity on the island of Hawaii. And this guy was like, I don't know, he would say some of the most outrageous things. He lived in a greenhouse. He grew every type of fruit there. He had started his brand a few months ago, and he was like uber profitable and already scaling past multi seven figures. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is like this guy might be completely wild, but this is a decent brand to the point where we were like we would do a performance uh only deal with him.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, he claimed that he really liked us. He wanted to work with us and was like, "All right, let's meet up in Seattle, which is just south of Vancouver. Let's meet up in Seattle whilst I go and visit like all of the inventory that I have arriving there this week. Um, and let's go to a football game, get some food, and and go to our warehouse and like start working together." So myself and the Jean who was doing the deal on our side with him drove down to Seattle that week. Um, I thought this would be a good opportunity to tell like eight of my friends to come to come along. So I booked like I don't know, I booked like five or six hotel rooms. We all went we all went to the football game with this guy. Um, and I wouldn't like typically do this with a regular client, but he was just like this like uh th this very outlandish kind of weird dude. So I thought it would be funny to bring a bunch of friends whilst closing the deal with him. Um, and we meet him at the game, and he shows up in like this fluorescent vest, like a worker's vest, uh, which is kind of wild. And then he turns out to be like 6'7", 350 pounds or something, like massive. Like this guy could barely fit through doors. And when I was on the call with him, I thought he was like a short little dwarf, like pudgy dude. Um, but seeing him like seeing him in person, I was like, this is like this is nuts. How did I get myself in this situation? So we end up like he comes to dinner with like we get dinner with him with him after. There's like 12 of us there. He starts doing like magic tricks with forks and stuff. Anyway, guy turns out to be a complete lunatic. We don't pursue working with him. We have a really funny trip down to Seattle. Um, One of the like I don't know weirdest things I've ever done to try to get a client. Um, but funny story nonetheless.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah,
I met some guys in when I went to Cape Town, and they said I was taller than they expected. That was the only thing. So I don't think I'm
that's
that
cool.
tall
Yeah,
though.
there you go. Yeah, yeah.
I'm
I've
like
heard
five
people say
eleven.
that. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've just definitely met like decent amount of people that I feel like you kind of like guess what someone looks like,
Yeah.
but then meeting them in person, I was like, whoa, this is not what was expected at all. And that's one of the funniest things about the world we live in, and the ability to be in business with people across the
That's the
world
thing.
for
Yeah,
years.
I know. Like there's some team members. I never ended up seeing them when I went to South Africa, but it's like, you worked with them for a year and a half, and I've never seen them in person. Like,
And they were in South Africa and you didn't see them.
no, bro, I never went. I don't know why I didn't, but
Fair enough. I made an effort. I always made an effort to like meet people in person at some point. I found that it was actually really helpful for business. It's kind of non-conventional. Maybe not non-conventional. I don't know. I feel like lots of people online will not try to do that. I didn't spend all of my time working to like meet with different people that we were hiring, but at some point, if we're really going to do business with someone, like I want to meet them in person. I
yeah.
think that's just like good practice. And you build a slightly different type of relationship. Um, but today, dude, I wanted to talk about building service delivery.
Mm.
So we got 25 minutes here to just jump into the weeds of what it looks like to create a service, to build a service delivery team, to scale that service delivery team. And maybe towards the end of this call as well, we'll talk a bit more about like when the agency or company gets big enough, how services get built without your direct involvement. So how you have a team starting to build and develop services too.
No clue what that is because I'm not there yet, but you know, sounds cool. Um, well, I'd say the biggest thing first off is like whenever you're building out a service, you probably have a good idea of what it is, but it's like you don't want to get stuck in a loop where you have to make it perfect before you even start, because that
Mhm.
is naturally just going to hold you back. You got to just kind of start at some point and then just
How do you
iterate and make
start?
it better.
How do you start if you don't know what it is though?
Uh, YouTube videos, online research, etc. Try to connect with people who know how to do it or someone to teach you,
But
whatever service you're doing.
how do you even know what service to do?
Um, you pick one that's out there that you think would be a good option. I mean, I bounced around from service to service and then just kind of
Hmm.
stuck my way into one, and then I was like, okay,
Hmm.
cool. A cool thing about my service is it's a little more unique than other services, so that
Hmm.
was the goal. I didn't want to be another Facebook ads, YouTube ads sort of agency. So
That's fine.
that's worked well. Um, and then yeah, I mean, you get a baseline off YouTube, so you know what to do, and then from there you just go iterate yourself. Um, you do it for one person. You ask what they like, what they don't like. You take what they don't like, and you fix it, and you just do that over and over and over and over and over again. And then also cut out the things that aren't needed, so that way you've got a very can't think of the right analogy, but you've got a very tight service delivery with
Sure.
only the most beneficial things.
What have you found then? Um, what was one thing that you didn't expect you needed to do that was really important for your service? So when you were first starting out, what was one thing that you had to do for service delivery, or you do now, that you didn't even assume or think of?
Um, Client relationships and communication. Dude, I used to sign a client and I'm like, cool, I'll speak with you if you got any questions. I'm a work over here. Um, and I would just work and I wouldn't update them. I would just work and fulfill and they didn't hear a thing about what I was doing. So, um, yeah, that was not too good for retention. But then I was like, oh, shoot, like, let me put myself in your shoes. You just paid me money, and now you haven't heard from me in 2 weeks, and you're getting leads coming in, but you're like, well, what the heck do I do? Um, so yeah, that was pretty important. I'd say client
Hmm.
communication, because I think there's three pillars to service delivery, or four, I don't, however many off the top of my head. But it's client communication and relationship, and then the actual
Hmm.
results. Well, that's only two,
Hmm.
but I'd say those are the main two. Um, there's two sides to it, right? Um, 50% of it is client relationships and communication and how well they feel heard, how quickly they're able to ask questions to get them answered and iterated on. And then the other
Hmm.
50% is relationships. I personally know some people who they've got clients that aren't doing well, but they're just like best buds and they stay. And I've also got other people who are doing really good on service delivery, but they don't know their clients and they're still kind of staying. But that retention is iffy. But if you have both, so you really have a good relationship with them, communication, um, their kids and what sports they play, whatever. And then you also have a really good service delivery. You're kind of just like adding both layers on. It's really hard for a client to leave once they've got a relationship built with you and the services are good. They kind of tie hand in hand, which I would have never
Right.
thought. I would have thought it would just be the service delivery and they could care less about how much they know me. And some clients are like that. Some clients I have a check and call with every 2 weeks. Hey, things are going well. Cool. How about you? Good. Cool. Bye. It's like a 5 minute conversation. But a lot of other clients like to have that relationship.
Agreed.
You are
Yeah.
you are very pixely also, by the way. I don't know if you can see that on your end.
Good to know. You cut out for a sec. So,
Oh darn.
um, we're uh we're experiencing technical difficulties.
Terrible, bro. We got to get an
Um,
in-person podcast set up with like the Shure SM7B, the Joe Rogan setup with the wooden table.
the red curtains.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Yeah.
should film a pod with Joe. We can invite him in like a month
Yeah.
or two. I think we got a busy schedule.
Yeah. We can fit him in whenever time's free.
I don't know if he's got much to talk about agencies though. I wonder what Joe Rogan's background is because like all I know about Joe Rogan is that he is the announcer for UFC.
I think he used to do Fear
And
Factor. He used to do Fear
yeah,
Factor and be on TV. And then he did
uh,
UFC. Now he does podcasts.
yeah, no, it just has the pod.
Pretty rad.
Epic, epic pod. Um, okay, cool. So you like you said this one thing that was pretty funny, which was you just need to have good service delivery. But like, what does good service delivery mean then outside of client results? Oh, sorry, client communication. That's like definitely a huge part.
Yeah.
But then, um, like good results too. So I think let's talk about what good results actually looks like. And this entire process. I think there's lots to share with people.
Uh, Good results are different. Like obviously there's certain time frames. So like with real estate, naturally you're like it's impossible unless you're doing a quick sale to make a client money in their first month. So you can define good results as a few different things, but I'd say obviously, ROI, return on investment for the client overall, um, additional lead flow and appointment flow depending on your service. I think it's much harder to sell a service, me personally, that doesn't generate a direct ROI because it's harder to justify almost. Um,
Hmm.
so like video content services. Obviously, you can see it's a pretty direct ROI, but like it's sometimes a little bit harder to convey. Um,
Hmm.
where did this lead come from, et cetera, unless you've got tracking in place. But results wise, I mean, it's pretty simple.
So on that topic, by the way, I actually agreed with you for a long time, but I don't agree anymore. Um,
Why?
so I think results-based services are generally important, and 90% of people should be building them to start. Um, but there's if you have like niched expertise, you don't necessarily need to be building and selling results-based services. Um, or if you have like a really good service or a really good ICP. Now, let me explain. If somebody is really qualified generally, so like lots of the time when you're starting out an agency, or what lots of people seem to do, is when they start their agency, they target people that are like, you know, doing seven figures or less. So they start working with really small businesses and they focus on really small businesses. And when you focus on small businesses, and the smaller the business that you focus on, the less you can charge, and the more performance focused it usually has to be, because these businesses do not have an abundance of cash flow. They do not already have something that's necessarily like working really, really well. And in the business world, like getting to seven figures a year in revenue with a product or like a service or something is that's like validation. Like that's like, oh, cool, it's working now. Now let's actually scale it. Um, so uh what I'm basically saying is like these are small businesses, and therefore, as a result, they don't have lots to spend, and they're looking at everything from an ROI perspective. But when you start going up the chain and you start working with people that are doing more in revenue or more experience in business, or have more cash flow, or whatever it is, like just generally bigger businesses, they have priorities outside of just making money from the dollar they spend that day, um, and they start to think about other things. So, um, uh, like last night, I was talking about this with someone where this idea of like branding and marketing and kind of being building a company as a feeling into people's minds. So it like for instance, you and I both like cars, okay? So lots of the cars that we probably think are cool are as a result of like where we've seen them or how we're associating them. So this is not like when at least for the cars I've bought, I haven't bought the cars because I saw an ad that day and then I like walked into the dealership and I was like, just heard about the new
Yeah.
911. What's going on? Didn't know you guys had that. It was more
Yeah.
like I think that Porsches look really cool. And for whatever reason, like I associate myself with them, or I want to associate myself with them. Um, so that led to the purchase itself. So that's like a non-direct ROI type of marketing, as an example, where these brands are
Yeah.
focused on like one that that I think of is like Land Rover Defenders. I don't think Land Rover Defenders were very cool 5 to 10 years ago, but now personally, I start to look at them and I think they're cooler now. And I think that when I was thinking about this yesterday as I was driving up into the mountains. Um, and I was behind a Land Rover Defender, and I was looking at it. I was like, "Why do I think that car is cool now?" Because 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, I used to be indifferent to it. Um, and I think it's because of the associations that the company has built. Like, I think the way that they do their marketing now, like they often use those cars as like in movies as like uh, to replace like Escalades or like Range Rovers now. So they're sponsoring lots of those kind of movies, and then they're positioning themselves in a way where they're like a cool car for transport. Um, so
So
that's a
just
very
like,
different type of marketing.
yeah, it could be more like brand awareness or association
Correct.
marketing compared to like, hey, put $1 in today and I get a client out tomorrow sort of thing.
Correct. So I am convinced that if anyone, this is a service that I think will absolutely kill it if anyone actually goes and creates it. And it is essentially creating uh, an AI account for a business or a person. So have you seen like the VO3 Greg the Stormtrooper accounts, or like the vlogging apes, or like the Bible themed accounts that are like going super viral, where it's like Jesus is like day two in the tomb,
Yeah.
lost my Wi-Fi connection. um,
I saw
those
one
are really
where I don't remember the guy's name, but it was the I think what Red Ocean or something like that, split in half and they're walking through it.
Yeah.
Red Sea, Red Sea. Dang, bro. I gotta lock in on my biblical knowledge.
uh, um, but well, yeah, but so like um I think this will absolutely kill it as a service is if someone goes and offers to people um something where they create an account like that, but it's like themed around the business and it's promoting the business itself. So I was using an example of my friend Eric last night. We were having dinner and talking about this. Um, and you could create like he mentors people in the AI space. He could create like a fake AI avatar that is taking his mentorship and following it and implementing it and then having their life transformed as they go and use that as a way to promote the main thing itself.
Hmm.
And I think that type of marketing, it might not be directly, it's still ROI focused. It might not be direct ROI in the first 30 days, similar to your service with realtors. But I think it's something that would prove ROI in 90 to 100 days or 180 days really quickly and would be a really creative way of doing marketing. Because it doesn't require the person to be in it anymore, but it still creates this like funny association with the brand. And you can use AI to go completely viral around a single person. Um, yeah, very cool, very crazy. Crazy times. But I'm very convinced that if you're reaching out to people that are doing, at least 50 to 100K a month in profit, um, and having some sort of online business, probably services or info products, that people will comfortably pay 3 to 8 thousand a month for a service like that.
Well, can you also just replace them? Like you could replace us two right now and just have an AI
Hmm.
podcast.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, for sure. Um, that's a perfect example. Like we could hire it, and we could do two podcasts now.
Or what will probably be best is like, a lot of info products struggle to actually sell for a high price from what I've seen because
Hmm.
they're so associated with like the founder's brand or image, etc. Um,
Hmm.
so maybe like I know what Dave Ramsey's doing right now is he's starting to get, other people, other faces in the brand.
Hmm.
So that way when he retires, it doesn't just lose itself and it still can kind of carry on. Potentially using that as like, bringing in other characters pretty much is the best way to put it.
Yeah, bringing in other characters for sure. I mean, I think like so it's something that works for people that aren't already making content, and it's something that works for people that are making content because it's just extra distribution for them. And I think it's like a really creative way to start doing distribution. And that's where we'll start seeing lots of spend go to. Like this is so brand new that I don't think then there might be a couple of companies in the world doing it. I haven't heard of any. Um, but I know that brands pay for shows and stuff. Like people sponsor podcasts and like people like companies sponsor entire TV shows or will launch a TV show just to get more brand awareness for themselves. So this is kind of like a mini equivalent for that, but that's now accessible to smaller businesses that aren't already, billion-dollar companies that have the $50 million marketing budget that's required.
Interesting.
Very. Um, yeah, very. That VO3 and like all of the AI services are opening up so many opportunities. It's really cool to see what's gonna happen to the services and like agency, SMMA, whatever you're gonna call this new service going forwards. Like, it's very interesting to see what's gonna happen to this space in general. It's cool.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you're going to be able to print more ads. I already saw one ad using it. I remember I saw I liked and I saved the reel because it was insane, but the whole reel was AI. Like it was talking about AI and the guy was AI and it had like 200,000 likes.
Yeah.
100% AI. Kind of
Oh
crazy.
yeah. Oh yeah. And that's like it's really only the beginning. I think there was a good talk by someone called Andre Kapathy um, at the Y Combinator startup school. And one of the things that he challenged people to do, and I'm going to pull up like the exact tweet itself right now, but one of the things that he challenged people to do was when building a company, come from the perspective of what if something that doesn't exist today is already commonplace. So the example that he used was um, if you go back to like 1995, um, if you were building a company, a good what if question to ask was, what if a billion people use the internet? Because at the time, not many people were using the internet. Um, so if you started with thinking, well, what happens if everybody's using the internet? Then what needs to exist and what companies are going to be really big? It helps you position yourself in a way to kind of build and adapt for the future. And that's where companies like Google came along. The guys at Google dared to dream that maybe everybody will use the internet in the future. And they thought what would be required if that became the case. And that they landed on search. They landed on realizing, hey, we need like people are going to need to search. So some of the other examples that Andre were using was, what if nobody drives a car? What if we can't tell what's real? What if everyone has a robot in their home? What if anyone can sing? What if anyone can make a TV show? And thinking about the future from this perspective is really, really interesting. Like what services people are going to want. And if you apply those kind of what if questions to marketing and real
So you'd
estate
be you'd be pretty
and
much building a service for something that's not yet happened but going to happen and position yourself right. So like another one would be what if real estate agents didn't exist or something like that. Is that
yes,
a
yes.
yeah.
Then what happens? Yes, exactly. What like or what if AI can do all phone calling from now on? And some of these things might not be, or it isn't. It might not be that it doesn't already exist yet, like in the from that perspective of service term. But maybe the service doesn't exist and it's just starting to emerge. So it's like, for instance, the question could be, what if everyone has an AI avatar that like makes content all day long? And you could ask that, and you could go, okay, cool. So I'm going to either build a service that works in that future, or perhaps you do a bit of both, where you build a service that allows for that to happen. Kind of like the VO3 idea that I was giving, where you would make AI avatars for people as a service that generate results for their business or generate customers, whatever that may be. Um, and that's perhaps is how you start. And then you're just thinking, okay, if everybody has this in the future, then what should my service be? And that's the only thing that I'd encourage people to think about with all of this AI is, I don't think service businesses or agencies are going anywhere. But I think that if you're running an agency and you're not cognizant of the fact that AI can do a lot of things, then you might go out of business. So basically, if you can think of like how AI is going to be integrated into the business itself and what the future of business looks like with AI involved, then you can build. I think those people are going to scale agencies and service businesses faster than we've ever seen in the history of SMMA or like online agencies or these kind of like digital business models. Um, but the people that are like not willing to adapt or start playing around with new AI tools or even thinking about this are going to be the ones that struggle to get clients and like struggle to keep growing.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that happens tomorrow, but definitely over the next like 3 or 4 years now.
for sure. 100%.
For,
Um
for sure.
yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff AI will unlock. Kind of what I mentioned, what if there's AI callers? It's kind of already happening. Apple's got an update coming in September, which will pretty much
Hmm.
have a gatekeeper in every
Hmm.
call that you have to explain
Hmm.
what you're calling for. So um,
Hmm.
now it's kind of adapted to that and figuring out a way to do that. Which that's the thing about service delivery as well, is it is ever changing. I really don't think there's ever a service delivery where you build once and then just never touch it again.
Hmm.
So that's just a side tangent.
For sure. That kind of starts moving on to the part of how service delivery evolves over time as well. Like if we're talking about service delivery, I mean, we've got a few minutes left here. How has your service evolved since you started?
Um, Started with Facebook ads, then went to YouTube ads, then went to cold calling. Um, Started off overseas cold callers, really no idea what we were doing. And then we developed a good script, and then we got onshore callers, and then we got trained in real estate callers, and then we tweaked our commission structure for them to make them more incentivized for results. Um, Added more sales training for the clients end of things, help them convert, and now we're starting to get some of our best clients um, and start to run like webinars with them, seminars with them, so they can teach the rest of the clients their skills to improve retention even further. So, like, just it's been a lot of development on the sales process, the sales skills, the people that are actually calling. Um, Having them be onshore, trained in real estate, I think is one of the biggest things because there's a lot of benefits to that. Um,
Hmm.
and how our service delivery is going to continue to evolve is ultimately, I think, at some point we can start closing the appointments for them and providing signed contracts. And obviously, there's new complexities that come with that and legalities that come with that. But I think if we can do that, um, just continuing to try and take over more of the specific process we're doing, but not too
Hmm.
much, right? We're not trying to run their whole business for them, but if it's something where it's super valuable to where um, a lot of people could very much benefit from it, and it gives us a lot of control is key. And that's something I'm also noticing is the more control we have within the service delivery process, the better the results are. So that's I'm not saying I want to run their whole business for them, but as much of the things within our control that we can do, I'd like to do. Because that way we can,
Hmm.
I know we're going to track our stats. I know we're going to record our calls. I know we're going to follow up with the leads. I know we're going to do X, Y, Z. So like
Hmm.
I'd say the biggest thing is right now with us is the client is a variable factor. So it's either getting a better client or doing more
Hmm.
ourselves, one of the two.
Third part is more training for your client too.
Yes. But that also comes down to are they going to implement it, which also comes down to a better client. So yes,
So
you know what I mean?
perhaps this is something that we should dive into on next week's podcast.
Maybe.
The complexities of clients, what makes a good client in the first place, what to look for, what not to look for, and how to handle clients. Maybe
How to
we'll
avoid
talk about
how
client
to avoid
cards too.
massive yeah, how to avoid massive crash outs as well. Well,
How to avoid massive crash outs. That's an exciting podcast.
because I heard I've heard of some people do that. Um, but yeah.
What
Me
Braden's
personally, I
alluding
haven't
to
had.
is what Braden's alluding to is like a very specific situation on Wednesday this
We'll,
week.
we'll we'll touch on that. We'll touch on that, but I can't say
We'll
I've had
touch
any
on
big
that, but you
crash
gotta wait.
outs. Um, yeah, we'll see. Um,
Awesome. Well, there we
what are the
go.
what are the closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts, I think. I mean, I think we could recap everything on this call, but very simply, pick a service, stick with it. Think about what's going to happen in the future as you learn more about business. Ask what happens if the craziest things you don't think are possible do end up happening, and um, try to be the person that evolves their service faster than others by thinking about those things and also being willing to consider what happens if maybe your service doesn't exist anymore or the market looks very different. And outside of that, talk to your clients.
Boom. Yeah, definitely talk to
Well,
them. That might help.
that might help. Cool. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Oh.